First of all, I must say that I enjoyed the panel discussion which took place just now, and in fact very much regretted that I was not here earlier. And I would be very brief because, now while introducing itself, it has been mentioned that I am a man of few words. So I think with the lunch probably overdue, this is a very, very, very soft hint. Yes, I have been saying, and I do mean it, that there is reason for the industry and for the country to be confident and very sanguine and hopeful about the future of telecom sector in the country. There are, and I would say that the reasons would be, as I'm sure, because from what I saw now, that while people did talk about voice, I think most of the discussion centered around data, and it's the future, and I think that is what makes me also very confident. In the year 2010, we had these 3G auction, and thereafter, there have been some other developments which probably held the industry back. I believe that we have more or less tackled the issues which arose, and today the industry is actually, and also if you look at it, and this is what I have been saying in the past also, that the sector was growing at a breakneck speed of more than 45% compounded annual growth rate for about 10 years or so, and it necessarily had to pause for a brief while. It also needed to look at another direction, and I think this was a good opportunity, and I think the direction is now set. The future growth of the industry is going to be based on data, but it will, I think, not only be data. I think this is the important point. I think the industry needs to look at all other avenues which are going to open up, and that's the real challenge. On the part of the government, I would say that we have gone through part of the issues. Some of the issues which were there, we have been able to handle. We basically took a decision that if we want to have growth in this new phase, the phase of data, then we first of all need to slightly change this licensing system. And that is why we introduced this unified license, which allows people to offer services across the entire spectrum of services which are available, and give them that opportunity to move from one set of service to other. So the other important aspect of unified license was that it delinked the license from the spectrum. So it was in a way a recognition of the fact that we need to go very big on data if we have to grow in future. Now, having done that, there was also a recognition of the fact that spectrum is going to be a major challenge, and how to kind of make available spectrum, and that is why first thing which has been decided is that the spectrum will come only through a transparent market mechanism, and auction has been that mechanism. But there is also a recognition that there will have to be other ways for people to acquire spectrum, and as a part of that, we actually said that the merger and acquisition, the spectrum trading, which we said that in principle it has been agreed even before the spectrum auction, and we are working on those detailed guidelines. So spectrum trading, spectrum sharing, merger and acquisitions, these are all going to be the means by which people should be able to acquire spectrum at a rate which would be determined by market-related process, in addition to acquiring the option of acquiring the spectrum through auction. We also, as a part of the same exercise, we know that there has to be more investment. We actually allowed 100% FDI in this sector. And I think that in that sense, these were the inputs which had gone into our preparatory phase, and thereafter, I think in the auction there has been a good response, which basically shows that the industry is recognizing that there is good future for the sector. But I would say that there are 2-3 things which we need to do in the government, and I am at this stage with the election code of conduct already being there. I don't want to go into too many specifics, but I would say that that one basic thing is which the government needs to do in the long run. There has been a recognition of this, but to some extent it lost focus, and the recognition is about telecom sector has to be viewed as a major driver of growth of the economy. It cannot be seen as a cash cow. It cannot be seen as a major source of revenue for the government and merely that. So that, I think, has to be an important recognition. And if it has to be a major driver of growth, then it is like the goose which lays the golden eggs. You cannot, you try to extract all the revenues from it in one go, because if you do that, you will kill the sector. And so I think one very important message which we need to bear in mind is to see how to balance, how to calibrate. There has to be a transparent procedure. Tenders are sometimes, or auction sometimes are necessary because not so much we want to extract the maximum money for the government, but because we want to have a transparent procedure. And we want to have efficient allocation and efficient use of spectrum. So that, I think, we need to recognize. And in the government, we need to therefore see how to give more and more value to the spectrum, how to make it possible for the industry or for the operators to extract more value from the spectrum. And I think that is the real challenge which is before us. So have the transparent procedure, but then make it possible for the industry to get the maximum benefit out of this. And this would involve, I think, a number of things. Liberalizing is one, which I think we say that it is technology neutral, that it is liberalized, but there are many problems even now which the industry faces. And I think all those must be addressed. We also need to see how to kind of address these issues in a way which is transparent, which does not get into any problems with the other stakeholders. Because sometimes, even if the government recognizes that money is not the only benefit, or revenue is not the only benefit to be derived from the sector, there would be other stakeholders who would be looking at it differently, and some of them can actually have a say which goes beyond what the government wants to do. So I think calibrating it rightly is going to be important, but I think that is one very, very major effort which the government has to take, and that is about liberalizing the use of spectrum, to make it easier for the people to use, for the operators to use spectrum. I think the second thing which we need to recognize is the fast changing technology. I think that in the Department of Telecom, because the department was for a long time was an operator and has therefore a huge legacy of being an operator itself, we need to now recognize that the technology is moving in this sector. I think the rate of obsolescence of technology in this sector is faster than any other sector, at least that I am aware of. And if we try to regulate everything with a heavy hand, then what we will do is essentially suffocate or strangulate the sector. So the other very conscious realization which must be there in the government, in the all the regulating mechanisms which are available in the country for the sector, is that a sector which is seeing such huge technological revolution has to be regulated, if at all, with a soft hand. We need to have regulations which allow freedom to the operators to make use of the technologies as they evolve. And that is going to be an extremely important part of making this sector grow. So that is something on which we need to really again do some more brainstorming to understand what will be the elements of it. What are those elements which will make it possible, which will give all the necessary freedom to, because we say it is technology neutral, but it doesn't really happen in practice. So how to make that practically feasible? I think the third related thing I think which is again equally important is the kind of commercial applications which can ride on this. And that is something which the sector must take advantage of, because as they say, the economy of scope, what is the scope of services which can be taken forward by using the telecom sector. And this is again an area where we really need to really work very hard and work together, because that is an area where industry needs to work along with the Department of Telecom, and we need to see what are going to be what is the potential for the future. What is it that we expect to happen in future? Because all said and done, it is what the policy has to do is to make the growth of the future for the next 20, 25, 30 years possible and encourage that growth, facilitate that growth. And I think their commercial applications of telecom are going to be an extremely important driver of growth. And I think we need to have very, very focused discussion with the industry on this and evolve policy in a way which allows these commercial applications. And that, I think, finally brings me to the part which is the ecosystem. What is it which would, because I think in India we probably have all those bits and pieces which should make it possible for India to be a great player in telecom sector. We have quite a lot of people, and as was mentioned here, that in many places, in fact, this is something which one hears very often, that there are a number of, if you see, in fact, I was talking once to the director of IIT Madras, and he was telling me that if you see in the research, the credits, you will find that practically 1/3 of the papers which are published in important science journals have an Indian's name in that. But if you look for actual science papers published by Indians from India, and that percentage is going to be very, very low. So there is a very widespread feeling that there is something in our ecosystem which does not allow this kind of scientific talent or technological talent or innovation in India to find expression. And that probably, it has something to do with the pedagogy, it has something to do with the institutions which we have in the academia, it has a lot to do with the financial institutions and the way financial proposals are processed, and it has something to do with the way the government encourages this kind of innovation. So I think one very, very important element of this whole thing would be how do we encourage an ecosystem in which the entrepreneurs, they feel enthused that an idea, you do not have to take that idea from end to end. It's not, and only then it can be monetized. I think the places where you find a lot of innovation taking place, it is possible for you to have an idea, bring it up to one point, and there is somebody else who is willing to buy that idea with that kind of validation and then work on it further. And its actual commercial implication is probably is still very far away. But there are people at different stages, the idea can be monetized, the innovation can be monetized, and that is what makes these youngsters stick. That is what gives rise to those serial entrepreneurs who will set up something with a small idea, make a limited success of it, but sell it to some bigger player who continues to work on that idea. So it is, I think, it is on this that we have done the least amount of work in the government. And also, I think, even in the industry, we need to work on this, because if we want the future, and we really have a long way to go. Because very often I hear about the success story of India, but the fact is that in many ways we are far behind some of the developing countries. Even if you look at penetration, we are far behind the other BRIC countries, for instance. So I think if we want to take forward, then this is another area on ecosystem that we need to work. But on the whole, I would say that we have reached a stage where the country and the sector can look at telecom sector with a new hope, because we are embarking on this new journey on data, and I think the scope and the future for this is really bright. And I would like to take this opportunity to say that we from the government would like to work with the industry on this to evolve solutions. I don't have the answers, that is a fact, but I am willing to listen, and I am willing to work with you to find those answers, so that together we can once again re-establish telecom as an engine for growth for the economy of the country. Thank you very much.
I'm Rakesh Mehrutra. It's great to listen that now government is saying that it's not a cash cow. We all know that we are paying 29% of the total revenue to the government as the different cess. Now, can't it be reduced? That's one. Second thing, the ecosystem is lacking. As a common citizen, I cannot make the ecosystem. It's the policymakers who have to make it. Regulations have to put all right. Now, we don't have this particular thing. And the second and the most important thing is we always lackers. We never think in future. What's our blueprint? What we are going to do in 3 years from now, we do not know. So can't the Department of Telecommunication work with the industry associations and ask them what your blueprint is, how you are going to work it out, and then make a solution, then try to work it out. I think that's the missing link. And every time we try to do the firefighting. I think the time has come. It's a matured market. We should get out of it.
Mature market, we should get out of?
Out of this mess. Every time we keep on following the things, what's already happening. Why don't we keep on talking what we have to do?
Okay. Yeah, I fully agree. I fully agree.
Any other? Can we have the mic here, please?
Hi, Mr. Farooqui. My name is Kumar Arora. There's going to be changes in the industry. We've got an August audience here. But my question to you is, there's a new operator coming in. How do you see the industry 3 years from today?
Well, that is, I think, in the government, I would say that I see that there is going to be some amount of churning. Because whenever there is a new operator or there is a new business model, I think more than anything else, what is going to happen is people are going to realize a whole lot of new business opportunities in this sector. And I think, and it is not only because there is going to be a new operator, it is, I think, because things have changed. And certainly if any new operator comes, there will be probably a different business model. And there will be that change will be there. But I think that this is certainly going to be a time where, in India, for example, let us say entertainment or infotainment or whatever, it's a huge market. Now, how much is it being tapped? And this is a sector in telecom. Actually, you can tap it in a very, very big way. So this is something there. In commerce, there is a whole lot of options which are available. A lot of opportunities are there. So I think that what is going to happen is that you are going to see telecom penetrating many other walks of life in a much more aggressive way in the next 3-4 years. And this is not only because there is a new operator, but also because the existing operators recognize that they have plateaued out in their existing field, and they will all look for this. And that is going to be really extremely good for the sector.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Dua from Tower and Infrastructure. Very nice to hear very reassuring word to the industry. And I'd like to thank you for two things which your time you have done it. One is getting the infrastructure status to the industry as a whole, telecom. And the second one, getting the guidelines for all these states. Yeah. Unfortunately, despite the push that we got from your side, both the things are serious bottlenecks. Now, we heard in the morning, probably you're not here, very nice words, inclusive growth, the phase 2, and moving from 2G to 3G to 4G and talking of 5G.